So I'm going to walk around for a second, and I ended up blocking this person. But they said, in the last video I talked about a holiness community becoming cold and losing their humanity and judging people. And they're like, well, if that's a holiness community, what's a wicked community like? Now this person has already argued with me back and forth, saying we're under law, and sent me to what looks like a Seventh-day Adventist prophecy site. So after a while, it's just time to be done. But I thought I would talk a little bit more about what I meant by holiness community. That's just a word I made up, but what I'm thinking of about when you talk about losing humanity, the Pharisees in the synagogue were a perfect example of this. It got so bad that when Jesus healed someone who had in their midst been bound by Satan for 18 years, he healed her. Instead of rejoicing that she was healed, they were angry that he healed on the Sabbath. And whenever Jesus did a miracle to help someone, whenever he did something good on the Sabbath in their community, he provoked their anger. So that's really when things have become so cold and turned upside down and distorted that you've lost your humanity. You've lost your ability to sympathize. You don't care about people's needs anymore. All you care about is whether they're following the rules. Now, the church is a holy community. When we are in fellowship, people who are not wanting to be in the Lord's presence aren't going to want to be around us. When we're manifesting the gospel, it is a fragrance of death to those who are perishing. So there is, in that sense, a fence around the community of God, based not because they are not inviting and warm, but because they love the word, and that's what they're talking about. They're holding forth the word of life, and the people who don't desire that are going to be repelled. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a community that's no longer holding forth the word of life. They've turned inward, and they are focusing on their rules and their performance. And when I say they're judging others, I don't mean that I don't mean to say that we don't hold a standard and say, look, this is wrong, that's right. I'm not talking about judgmentalism in terms of the way the world would cast that accusation. We don't fellowship. We can't fellowship with someone who's walking in sin. They don't have fellowship. But we're also not to, if they're a believer, we're instructed not to even eat with them if they're living in open, unrepentant sin. So that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is where you are biting and devouring each other, and you've turned inward, and you really could care less about how anyone's doing or how your church practice is even affecting them. You're willing to see them suffer the loss of everything in order to stand with you in your little deal. And your little deal is no longer about Jesus Christ. It's about your little deal, your community. And I've been in one of those. It was a cult. They're all cults. Whenever it loses focus on Christ and loses the humanity and turns inward, where people are so miserable they can't even take it. And when they complain or say, man, I can't keep going on like this, then everybody gathers around and beats them. That's how it was in the synagogues. By the time Jesus came to Jerusalem, they, in the name of holiness, had so separated themselves from everything they deemed sinful that they wouldn't help a person who was lying on the ground, bleeding. They wouldn't help anybody. And they got mad when he healed on the Sabbath. That's a good sign that you've lost your humanity. So that's what I'm talking about. And yeah, because of interactions with this person, I blocked them, but I thought it was a good chance to speak to this a little bit. All right, take care.